logical theory out there. It's not the top contender. It's mostly been developed by this guy Hans Olfven, and it's called a vacuum fluctuation cosmology. Quantum physics allows these things called vacuum fluctuations, and what they are is particles literally appear out of nowhere, and this is allowed by quantum physics as long as parity is conserved. And what that means is that these particles must contact their antiparticle and annihilate themselves and restore the system to a net energy of zero. But there is this brief moment during the vacuum fluctuation when matter comes into being ex nihilo. Now, the interesting thing about the quantum description of the vacuum fluctuation is that the mathematics set no theoretical upper limit for the size of the fluctuation. It simply says the larger the fluctuation, the rarer it is. So Hans Olfven suggests we are in a vacuum fluctuation of 10 high 22 particles. And what that means is that somewhere in the larger metaverse, our antimatter twin exists. And for the laws of physics to keep the accounts balanced, parity will have to be conserved. And what that might mean is a higher dimensional collision with our lost twin. And this would not be a collision in three-dimensional space. You wouldn't see it coming. It would occur instantaneously throughout the entire space-time continuum. All particles would annihilate their antiparticles, and there is only one particle that has no antiparticle. The photon there is no antiphoton. So if the universe were a vacuum fluctuation of this type, at the moment of the reconservation of parity, all matter in this universe would disappear. 100% it would disappear. And what would be left is all the light in the universe. And a universe filled entirely with photons, we have no idea what that is. That might be the mind of God. That might be the omega of the eschaton. Consciousness, there was an article in Scientific American, of all places, 3 issues ago, suggesting that consciousness is a general quality of the universe, like gravity, and light is implicated. So it's possible that now that's a large scale. You talk about abandoning the body. This is a cosmology where at a certain point in the life of the universe, all matter disappears. And that would certainly, for my money, fulfill the novelty theory. After all, we are in a center for psychophysical healing, so please honor that. My take on science, I might as well couch it as a comment to you, but it will come out in some other form anyway, is science is excellent at doing what it was designed to do, but it has expanded its province into all reality and seeks to pass judgment in areas where it has no real business going. It's a very limited method that achieves its claim to universality by wildly exaggerating its accomplishments. For example, science to do its work, modern science, post-Newton, depends on probability theory. But probability theory has a built-in assumption that has never been thoroughly looked at, and that is the assumption of what Newton called pure duration, meaning that science, if you describe a scientific procedure to someone, they don't ask whether you did it on a Wednesday or a Saturday. Science seeks to be time independent. And in order to do that, it has to make the assumption that time is invariant. This is just a first try with Occam's razor. In fact, in our own lives, what we experience is endless variation. In other words, it may be that the hydrogen bond, when it breaks, always breaks the same way. But love affairs, investment strategies, political campaigns, the building of empires, these things are always characterized by a kind of uniqueness. And science, by invading these domains with probabilistic conceptions, gives us the science of statistics, polling, and hands to us mythical entities like the citizen or the average white male, or, these are just absurd abstractions that are generated by a particular kind of worldview that is not really examining its first premises. So I would propose a modified definition of science that would then let it do its work in peace, which is science is the study of those phenomena which are time independent, but that in many realms of nature, a new theory to replace probability theory and flat duration is necessary. The power of probability is simply based on its success in these very, very limited domains. And now there's no way back from that. Modern science is thoroughgoingly probabilistic. If you were to try and remake, they're always raving about the new paradigm in science, and it's always usually some tiny diddling of what they've already got. If you were to really try and remake science, then you would have to replace the assumption of invariability in time with a mathematical statement about its variability. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow, because there is room for that. Science is not reason. Reason is a different domain. And I think anything which is unreasonable, ultimately unreasonable, is just patently absurd. That's why I don't feel great affinity with most of the marching hordes of the New Age, because, the fact of the matter is they don't possess any razors for separating the nuts from the berries. But nevertheless, our intellectual choices are not between the channelers of Lazarus and the American scientific establishment. There's a vast set of possibilities in between there and beyond those poles of discourse that can be worked out. Every society that's always existed has had the built-in assumption that they only needed to find out 5% more about reality, and then it would all fall into place, and that they had the right tools for doing that. But we look back then with this great sense of superiority on the naivete of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, the Maya, the 17th century English, everybody. We look back on their naivete. But in fact, our own cultural enterprise is obviously fraught with a peculiar illogic and childishness and naivete. We're a culture that, robs our children to create a potlatch culture in the present. And this would look fairly pathological from any cultural perspective outside our own. The thing, this is a segue, but it makes sense. The thing that I think psychedelics do that addresses this problem and many, many problems, or choke points in our ideological effort to understand what's going on, is the contribution that they make is that they dissolve boundaries. And culture, I mean, the word virtual reality was used as we went around the circle. Culture is the sanctioned virtual reality. And it is put in place by the machinery of local language, you see. And so then you're born into this circumstance, and you're told, you know, you are a male child, you are a citizen of the United States, you are a Christian, you are a Jew, you will go to college, you will do this. And you never question. It's called the social contract. It hasn't gone unnoticed by Western philosophers. It's gone unnoticed by those of us who are its foremost victims. They try to tell you that you're in a social contract. But when you ask to see your signature on the document, they tell you that you were born into this contract. Well, what the hell kind of contract is that? It means that you were born into a kind of enslavement to a linguistically empowered paradigm of virtual reality within which you will walk around your entire life, congratulating yourself on its accomplishments and ignoring its contradictions and weaknesses. So what psychedelics do, and why they are in all times and all places such social dynamite, is they dissolve the cultural machinery. Doesn't matter. You know, head-shrinking Amazon native, Hasidic Jew, Chinese merchant in Singapore, whoever it is, the psychedelic dissolves their cultural construct and puts them in touch with the fact of being in organism.